Hello and welcome to Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
And I'm Justin.
Hello, Justin.
Hello. How are you?
How are you? Let's pretend like we haven't been talking to each other for 20 minutes before the podcast.
We should just record that and just put it in the show. But yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. This is a I'm in a different spot than I usually record, but it's pretty comfy. I'm liking it.
I know. So, it's that cat. Is that our new co-host? New mascot?
Yeah, this cat in space.
The playing favorites podcast mascot.
I'm gonna say it. The playing favorites pussy. There it is. It's a pussycat.
I get it.
You're shaking your head at me. Even for those of you just listening, you can hear Justin shaking his head in disappointment.
I know we gotta get used. We gotta get used to this because we're not used to doing the video. We gotta let our listeners know that we're doing things. But just so you know, he literally has a curtain. Can I say it's a shower curtain? Because it is a shower curtain.
It is a shower curtain. It is the coolest shower curtain there is. It's a cat eating a slice of pizza in space.
Oh, you can't see the pizza. I can't see the pizza. But
I'm sorry. Can't see the pizza.
It's okay.
Sorry.
But I will point out, just to segue into what we're actually here for, he is in space, which does relate to what we're about to talk about. I think it's, laser cats, right? Isn't that what we're talking about today?
Yes, favorite laser cats episode. No, we're talking our favorite science fiction show. This is, if this is your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where we discuss our favorite things across a variety of topics.
That's right.
What do we do here every week?
Yes, that's right. Like pizza and cats, like eating things. Yes, but no, as Paul said, we do a variety of different things across a variety of different media. We do a little research, like look into some things, maybe find some fun facts, like bat facts. We've done that before, and we just come back and we just like to talk. So that's why we're here, and we do a lot of talking somewhere else.
Yes, you can check us out on Twitter. You can find some extra and bonus stuff over on our Patreon page, and you can even become a patron like 8-Bit Sean and Mac 40K Painting. Thanks for your support, guys.
That's right. But before we go into the actual main topic here, or talk about our honorable mentions and our favorite science fiction show, I will be giving Paul a surprise topic, which I have a lot to pick from, and the cat's throwing me off, so I got to figure out what I want to do here. So, and honestly, I'm gonna go with this. This might be like a little bit of a, kind of rapid fire surprise topic. I think we'll see how it goes.
Lightning round?
Yeah, lightning round. Because there's so many things you can ask about a science fiction show. Because they have certain things that are in them that qualify them to be a science fiction show. Not all of them have these things, but I think across the board they mostly do. So, what would be your favorite ship from a science fiction show?
Ooh, from a science fiction TV show. Oh, I love Galactica from Battlestar Galactica. The main, Edward James Olmos. What the heck? Commander Adama. The way he runs that ship too, and how what's great about that ship. It's for a military ship, it's very orderly, and there's everything is in its place. There's one episode where they discover that there's no hope, or they're about to die, and you could just see things falling apart, and papers on the ground, people running, and the ship has turned into a madhouse. And it's that's the setting for most of the show too, was the ship, because they're just humans in space trying to find a planet to live on. So that one's up there. I love the Serenity from Firefly. That's just
that's a good
cool
one.
Ship, and it's kind of like a warehouse in space. It's not really very aesthetically pleasing. It's just a freighter.
I mean, personally, because the way you started the show, I thought you were going to bring up Lex, but that's just... Do you remember that show, Lex? Do you remember Lex? You don't remember the science fiction show. It's a horrible, horrible science show. So the
LEX?
LEXX.
The X is for extra Lex.
X is for the ship literally looks like a cock and balls. That's what the ship looks like.
Really?
Yeah, it's very weird.
Never heard of those.
Oh, I used to
Sounds like Deep. What is it? Deep Space 69.
Oh, Jesus!
That's an animated show, a Mondo animated show.
But no, I remember
Anyway.
like stumbling upon that in Sci-Fi late night Sci-Fi. It was a show called Lex, and it was just literally like a sort of this like raunchy humored science fiction show, and literally the ship was a bunch of cock and balls, which I always was really disturbed by that. But that's not my answer. Not my answer at all.
Okay, what's yours? What's your favorite ship?
I gotta look at the name of it because honestly, it just came to me as I was like, you think I'd have an answer as I asked the surprise topic, but then as I was thinking of it, like, you know what? I forgot about this ship, and it was the ship from Farscape.
Oh, okay, I remember.
And I'm
Isn't
gonna
it still going?
Oh no, Farscape's been over for. It only had like 4 seasons.
For some reason I heard that they were still making they were making more Farscape episodes.
Moya, that was the name of the ship. Moya, because it was a living being, because it was like a living ship. That was like the unique thing about it, and like you had like this weird like because there was a bunch of Muppets that were in the show, and you had like the main like navigator like was like actually like speaking with the ship to tell the Moya where to go. They had to like heal Moya, and it was just such it was such an interesting. It had a gender. It was a gender. It was a female. That's what it has the name. It's called I'm reading like the little like snippet that comes up in Google, but it was a female Leviathan transport vessel, a living sentient biomechanical spaceship, who was once captured by the Peacekeepers. She escaped captivity along with the people imprisoned on her by the Peacekeepers. She has given birth to one offspring, a male by the name of Talon. So it just had this really cool vibe inside. I think it just was that show just had a cool like aesthetic to it, and I always thought that was kind of a unique, different kind of ship for sci-fi. I don't know, it's cool. I like
the idea of the living ship. Like it's such a neat idea. I feel like there's other things that have done it. I feel like in some Star Wars expanded novels, I feel like that's been in there.
Well, that's the use in Vogue. That's all they use.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking about.
They refuse to use machines in that series, but it's
sacrilegious for them. Right?
Exactly. Other surprise topic for you is who would be your favorite? I guess I was gonna say captain, but I guess leader, just to kind of broaden it out a little bit more.
Okay.
Who would be your favorite leader? Or maybe
lead on the show, or like someone who's in charge of the ship.
Usually they're in some sort of like dire straits in these shows, so it's like who's in charge, who's running the pack? Who's your favorite one that would do that?
Favorite leader? I guess if I was to, you know what, it counts as a sci-fi show, in that it is. I'm thinking about Futurama.
Okay.
Because yes, it's funny. Yes, it's made by the same guys and some of the writers from The Simpsons, but it's its own thing. And a lot of it is like referencing real science fiction.
Well, I mean, it's considered a science fiction show when I was doing my research. So
okay, there. Yes.
I mean,
I was going to shout it out. I was like, I don't care what anybody said. It does have some hard sci-fi elements to it, but I liked Leela. Leela is kind of like the ringleader between Fry and Bender when they go on like their little missions. I like when the full crew is on the ship, and it's like Professor Farnsworth is like kind of in charge, but he's also not, because he's like falling asleep or incompetent.
Aren't they just like package delivery people though? Isn't that their whole like? Yeah. That's all they do, right?
Deliver
they deliver things.
Because that was the whole joke, was that he was a delivery boy in the 20th century, and then he goes to the 31st century and is still a delivery boy. But
that's right.
No, I love Captain Mal from Firefly. I'm going to say that one again. Edward James Olmos as Commander Odama.
Oh my God, we're just going to repeat things. I know. I like to think like there's so many things to talk about. Go ahead.
No. I think I saw this on the list of like a list of like sci-fi TV shows, and I didn't really believe it at first, but from what I've watched, because I think I've watched the first 4 seasons of Agents of Shield, they have taken
Oh,
that show
it's really
and gone down like the science fiction route. I wouldn't even call it a Marvel show anymore. It's just like its own thing. But the guy who
Coulson.
plays the he wasn't the head of Shield. He was like the guy who was
Coulson.
trying to recruit.
Colson?
Was it Coulson? Coulson.
Yeah, Agent Coulson.
Coulson.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
like
pick.
it.
That's a
I like
great.
it.
It's a great pick. He is a good leader. He's a great leader.
I will take him. I think he's the best part of the show most of the time.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
every other character I can't stand. But
I mean, they get better. I kind of fell off after the second season, just because
you know
of
that
time.
Ghost Rider came on the show.
Oh yeah,
Ghost Rider.
I think yeah, Ghost Rider was there. They did some weird stuff. Coulson does actually die later on too, and then he becomes back as a bad guy. Yeah, it's
Why
like,
not?
yeah, why not? It's a science fiction show. My favorite leader, and I had it, and then I lost it. Oh damn it! What was I gonna say? Shoot. Oh yeah, there we go. Sorry, now it came back to me. It's actually O'Neill from SG-1. So you got your you got your MacGyver actor, not the one from the show, not from the movie, because this is shows we're talking about. The better of the Stargates.
Because it was Kurt Russell. It was Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell
right,
in the movie, yeah. Kurt Russell. And James Spader
played
as the
by, yes, as the
nerdy
as
guy.
the nerd. Yes.
But no.
Guy who.
Oh
my God! I'm just thinking about Stargate now.
But O'Neill just like took that role and really kind of fleshed it out and made it its own. And it just like he just had this sort of sense of like, because he was a military guy, still that kind of thing. But he had that sense of humor that was very bit still military, and he just kind of meshed so well with the rest of the group. Like he definitely would always lean to the mission, but like he'd always try to make the mission still happen. I think obviously because they're relying on what happened in the first movie, because they used that as a reference. Because he was so anal about the mission, right? Like in the movie, like to the point where he almost destroyed everybody. But I think he learned from that, and then later in the show, like you could see that he is more about saving lives and like saving his compatriots or friends or whoever he's with. I don't know. And he just had a sort of charisma to him. I really, really enjoyed it.
He's Richard Dean Anderson, man. He's MacGyver.
Sure.
You see him and you're like, I trust you.
That's right. Yeah.
You'll get me out of this situation.
I feel like you're gonna figure out a way out of this place, and we only have a few things.
It must have happened at some point that somebody got stuck on an elevator with Richard Dean Anderson and just kind of like looks to him like, well, what are we doing?
That's really
love
funny.
that. Good choice, though. Good choice.
Nah.
I will give SG-1 its credit where credit is due. He's a great casting choice, and I'm sure he's been.
The whole cast of that show is really good. There's a lot of really awesome members in that show.
Chakotay and Commander Janeway, all of them. They were great. Am I thinking of Star Trek Voyager?
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know. You never watched Stargate, so you wouldn't know. Do you have a surprise topic at all? Do you have anything that you want to kind of randomly throw out there?
Well, I liked your idea, like the favorite ship, but I guess I get like in the future, especially so many of like the science fiction shows that are portrayed in the future. There is like some kind of future world government, like the Federation in Star Trek, or the Republic, New Republic, all that stuff. Well, like, what would you say? Like one, not necessarily your favorite, but like, I mean, which one did you always think was like a cool idea or like an interesting idea of like, oh, so that's what will happen in the future, huh? Or like, oh, that's what they think will happen.
Huh. I mean, as far as like you say future, but like, does it have to be future? It doesn't matter, right? Just
no, I mean, just like it's an alternate form, alternate reality.
I guess like. Honestly, to go back to SG-1, I just love the Gua'uld race, like just the way they kind of like create this like godlike kind of like I guess organization, and they create like a bunch of like armies because they could just like create this. They have the sense of being gods to like take over planets, and like, but literally they're just a bunch of parasites. Like they really,
Yeah.
you know, it's like somehow they're just really smart, but they just have to invade people's bodies. But just and then the other thing though were the Asgardians too in SG-1, where that's in the show. They kind of were like your typical normal looking alien, like the white with the big head, but they represented the whole Thor mythology. Like they were all that. Like that they did that instead. So like it was like yeah, they were
the big gray aliens with the big black eyes. Those were like Thor and Odin and Loki.
Yeah, no, yeah, you meet them too. You meet a Thor, and that's what they look like. They look like that.
Oh my god, that's hilarious! I'm thinking about like Thor's costume on one of those gray aliens, like the gray alien dressed as Thor for Halloween.
What they would do is they would make projections to look like Thor. So like they didn't actually they have
like
some
what a human being would imagine Thor would look.
They would see like a hologram of somebody, like because they had better scientifical, you know, they had better science. So they would see a hologram of Thor because there was a whole episode on that where they get to the, you know, on Earth they find like the like a cave that's like kind of guarded by the, like Asgardian tech, and it's just like a trials thing like they have to go through. Like it's like hello, I am Thor, and you will have to pass my test to enter my cave, and you know, like it's like things like that. Like I don't know, SG-1 was fun. I don't know, it's really weird. But yeah,
I was thinking like the Federation is like it's an interesting idea. Like the idea like in the future there is no like at least in the Federation space, there is no like economy in the sense that we understand it. Like they don't do things for money, and you don't exchange money for things. It's just like you do things to enrich yourself, and like because you know it contributes to society. I don't know. It's always been kind of weird, but I will say, Firefly for all of its 14 episodes, I feel like I just keep mentioning Firefly, but in their 14 episodes, they managed to flesh out really quickly too the like Earth Alliance, which was like the last two superpowers, the U.S. and China.
I know that first episode really well.
Yeah, and then like every episode they do like the voiceover. They're like, the Alliance wanted to take over. Some people didn't like that.
I meant like that's the only episode I've ever watched. Really, was the first episode.
Oh, really? The first episode?
Like I've watched it like 7 times.
Good. You should watch the rest.
I know.
I mean, there's only 13 more in a movie.
I know.
You've seen the movie though.
I know.
You read the movie.
I know. That's why I can't watch the show, because I saw the movie. I know where it ends.
No, that doesn't matter though. Like the story is what matters. Like the episodes are so good.
I know.
Anyways,
I've watched like the first 4. I watched the first 4. I joke because I tend to watch the first episode a lot because it is a longer one. It's like it's like an hour long or something like that, or hour and a half or something. And then I'd watch it. I'm like, oh, that was great. I can't watch the next one. Then never watch the next one. Then 4 months later go by. I'm like, I'm gonna start over again.
I remember this. What a good movie.
It was a great movie, actually. It's like they have a really good end.
I like that movie.
No, it was good. But all right. Well,
I like the idea of like the Alliance is like trying to expand, and like Mel and his crew are just like, we don't want to, like, they're like people on the fringes of space, like pioneers, just like, we don't want to be a part of this. Like, good for you, but we're leaving.
He just wants to fly. That's all he wants.
Yeah, can't take the sky from him.
Well, I think we should fly to a break. If that was a good...
Well done. I think we should fly. I like it. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get into our honorable mentions.
And we're back to do our favorite sci-fi TV show episode. So we're going to start with honorable mentions. So Paul, please engage.
So my first honorable mention, I don't think you've seen this show, but I think you would actually love it. It's Westworld.
No, I have not seen that show. I wanted to.
I cannot speak on the 3rd season. I know that it just ended like last month. In and of it yet, but I look forward to seeing it. And it got a little bit more mixed reviews, mostly positive, but got a little bit more rumblings from people. I don't care. The first 2 seasons are dynamite to me. The first season especially is amazing. Because anything that what's his name? Sir Anthony Hopkins is in gets like a patina of gold on it anyways, right? Anything that he stars in, anything he does.
Wait, Anthony Hopkins in that? He was in that? I didn't even know he was in it. No, I didn't know he was in it.
He plays like Dr. Ford. He's like one of the original founders of the park. So are you familiar with like the show?
I knew initially what it was, and people were like completely surprised by the ending, and I know what the ending is sort of. But I guess, did you know it was a sci-fi show going in? That's the thing. I got the impression that you really weren't sure what it was initially, right?
I knew it was okay. So I knew I had seen. I remember seeing parts of, not most of, I don't know, of Yul Brynner in the original Westworld movie from the 70s.
Oh, I didn't know it was based on that.
Because Michael Crichton, it's based on a Michael Crichton book, and he actually directed the movie. And then they had a sequel that wasn't based on his book called Future World. I never saw that, but like it was science fiction because it's the classic idea. And The Simpsons even parodied it with Itchy and Scratchy Land of like robots meant to serve humans, get a mind of their own or go haywire and start killing the people they're supposed to be protecting.
Okay.
And that's kind of the situation here. But what I really like about the show, like, yes, these are androids, the hosts. You could do whatever kind of harm or good to them as you see fit. If you're like a patron of this park, you just go in and you can do whatever you want without fear for your life. And all of a sudden, like, things start to change and the hosts actually start hurting the guests. But when you see like some of the crazy thing people were doing at the park, you're like, no wonder these robots are going haywire. Like, it's terrible. Like, it's depraved. But I mean, it's a good. I like it because it's a really smart kind of commentary on just human nature in general, and like things that are made to look like us and act like us, and how they get their own kind of consciousness, and how deep they like, and like the future of AI. Because one of the things that like kind of messed things up from the get-go, like there was like a glitch, was Ford had created these things called reveries, like little like human tics, like that every person has, like touching your mouth when you're doing something, or like tugging on your ear when you're telling a lot, like these little tiny minuscule things he was building into the androids, like programming, and that kind of like causes some of the hosts to get sentience, like they all of a sudden become self-aware. Like two of the main, like Dolores and Maeve, two of the main characters, because of this update, all of a sudden like snap out of it and like realize that they're machines in this world. And I mean, one of the craziest episodes was when they go to Eastworld, which is all in like ancient Japan, and it's like snowing in like snow falling on cedars and like some beautiful part of Japan and samurai and all that.
Is that the second season then? Because the first season's all in Westworld, right? You don't go anywhere else, and that's where you start branching out, and it gets
a little bit. You start to branch out. Like I forget how they get there. Like the parks are all connected, and then you realize just how huge this park system is.
Okay.
And at the end of the second season, I don't think this is spoilers at this point because it's like 3 years old now. They get out of the park. And I think that's what the focus of the third season is like what happens when these androids who have gained sentience get out into the real world. Like what will they see and what will they do? So I don't know, man. It's creepy at times. It's just really well put together. It's kind of visceral because you see a lot of crazy stuff happening to the hosts, and you're like just it makes you feel like sad for humanity. You're like, oh god, human beings are disgusting. Why would you do this?
There's something about like the modern day sci-fi show that I sadly have just missed out on. Like I mean, Westworld was something I would probably have eaten up so much, like pre-children.
Yeah. You need the time to devote to like connecting threads and theories and all that.
Well,
too.
yeah, and it's like where do you devote your time? It's like we like so many different things, and like there's other shows that I would love to watch. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're bringing up like Black Mirror and
Yep.
like
I was
things
gonna
like
shout them out.
like things like that. Like I've always been intrigued by those shows, but just never put the time in. Westworld was one that I wanted to jump into, and I was like, oh, I'll get to that. And then by the time it comes to the third season, I'm just like, well, I think I've missed the boat. Maybe I haven't.
No,
But-
man, it's
yeah.
like that. What's his name is in it too? Ed. Oh, what the
Oh,
hell?
I
The
think I
guy
know.
from The Abyss. Why can't I think of
Yeah,
any other? He was,
oh, jeez.
he was also in The Rock.
He's in Apollo, right? Wasn't it Apollo?
Was he in Apollo?
Wasn't he like the guy on like that's in the command center?
Yes, he was.
Oh, jeez.
Come on, we can do it. We can do it. What's his name? What's his name?
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Helms? No, not Ed Sullivan.
I'm using Google.
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. You got it.
All right. Ed Harris. Ed Harris is in it. He's for the first season. For the entire first season, he doesn't have a name. He's just referred to as the Man in Black, and they make him out to be so like he's dressed in black, and you're like, holy crap! Like he's the epitome of villain. Like the things that he does, and he's got his own like quest. Oh, he's so good in that. Anthony Hopkins is really good in it. Like that's one thing I would highly recommend. I don't think it'll ever. I think it'll kind of stay because it's set in the year like 25 something, like 25, 17 or.
When you said the third season's over?
Yes, finished in May.
Are they doing a fourth season? Do you know?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. It's never a bad time to get, and it's got Old West stuff too, so it's kind of like Firefly, you know.
I did so good at finishing that show, you know.
Bad choice of options. Bad choice of comparison. They keep doing this thing with the player piano in the first season too, where you always like the player piano is playing contemporary songs like "Baby Got Back" or something, but it's all like orchestrated on a like arranged for a piano. Or it'll be like, "Come on and get down with the sickness, get up and get down with the sickness," but like on a player piano.
Oh man, definitely. I should watch it. You should watch the third season, and maybe that's a future bonus episode right there.
Hell yeah, we should do a Westworld episode. And even more bonus, we'll try to find the Yul Brynner 1970s Westworld.
Oh my god, you're gonna kill me! Like that cat, it keeps staring at me, and I feel like it's gonna kill me. The cat's really throwing me off.
Laser cat. All right, Justin, you've heard me. What's your first honorable mention?
So I try to think of how I want to break this down because there's like I have a favorite, and I probably have three that I could talk heavily on. I'm just trying to figure out which ones I want to talk about.
This doesn't have to be a rank.
We never rank. It's the game we play. It's the game we play that I have to consider.
Oh.
Okay, so I know one we're going to probably share for sure. So I'm going to start with this one because I know you haven't watched it.
Okay.
And that show is Lost.
Okay, yes. I will just say one of our listeners, a good friend of the podcast, did accost me saying that he's gonna like give me the first season of Lost, like he's gonna get it to me and like convince me like it's a good episode. And if you're listening, I'll try. I'm sorry.
I can't watch
it for years.
I don't know. I feel like you could get into Lost. I feel like there's a part of you that would. I feel like the sad thing about Lost though is it is an old way of making TV because it was that transition from being like the weekly kind of event like on your TV set. You sit there at a certain time. I mean, like you kind of have that with Game of Thrones, but like you didn't have to be there for the event, right? You could just watch the show later after it aired, like Game of Thrones. It'd come out at a certain time, but then you could still stream it somewhere else. And Lost didn't really have that at all. Like it was like it came out like towards the tail end of you know, when Netflix was going, it just was going to digital. Like it would be, that's when the straight.
Okay.
So my experience with Lost was this: I didn't really watch it at all during the original fad of the first season. Like I kind of didn't get into it until I think the fourth season had already finished.
Oh wow, 4 seasons in?
Yeah, so like I didn't start at 4 seasons, but I'm just saying like.
Yeah. That's like, but it had already been 4 years before you.
Yeah, like because I didn't know how to watch it. It was like hard to find. I mean, I was horrible. Like, well, I got to be home at 8:00 to watch my show. I didn't want to really do that. Like, I didn't want to be like committing to be there at a certain time, and so I just didn't get into it. But then I signed up for Netflix, the old school Netflix, the disc one. Yes. And I'm like, well, that's usually how.
Oh, it came with it. You get the digital for free.
No, this is before digital was even out. Like
just the 2 disc. Yes.
Just the disc, and then I got that, you know, pretty like probably a year before they went to the digital, but like or the streaming when you could do both. And so I was renting the first season by disc because I just heard people were like raving about it. People were talking about it. Like, you know, I'll give it a shot. I was finally moved out of my parents' house, and I'll just watch it. And I got so sucked into it. Like, there was just something about that show. I mean, it's made by J.J. Abrams. It was like his first, like, big thing that he did. And and I just think it was something about the characters and the weirdness of it, and just like the mystery behind it, and like really trying to figure out what was going on. There was like this sense of like a puzzle of that show. It's like, what does that thing mean? Why is that box there? There's got to be a meaning for that apple in the tree. Where you kind of like, it's like, it was just a constant, like, it's like a theorist fever dream. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like theorizing every week or every time you see it. Now, granted, I wasn't watching it with the community. I was like kind of, you know, way past. But I remember when I finally clicked that I was obsessed. Because I was watching it, like, you know, get the disc, and I'm like, oh man, like every show's a cliffhanger. And I love cliffhangers. It was just like, I just have to, you know, we talked about soap operas very extensively a few weeks ago. And
they keep you going. That's, I mean, and that you're absolutely right. Like that time in television was still like, it wasn't like we're making a piece of media that'll, you know, this is 1 hour story that we want to tell. It's like, okay, we got to start here, but then we have to end here because we have to hook them for the next episode for next week.
Yep. There was
like kind of strictly to that formula, not really.
And I think I don't.
That's what they had to do though.
But what made it work, and this is the beauty of the show. You know, and I know this is kind of a weird because it does get very sci-fi, you know. But it's the fact that they do those flashbacks. That's really what really kind of kept it going. You weren't stuck in this weird situation, sci-fi stuff. They grounded you by doing flashbacks of when they were back before they crashed on the island, or who they were before this event. You were learning the characters through these flashbacks, which them in themselves were a cliffhanger. So you think of it like kind of like reading a book. It's like you're reading like a book that is written by like 6 different perspectives, and you always like, and when you read those books, you kind of connect with a few characters. You're like, I can't wait to get to the chapter where they pick up that character's story. But then you still have to go through like 6 other chapters of other characters that you kind of like. But you're like, you get to that next chapter, and then he goes, Bill is doing this. I'm like, yay, we're back to Bill. I'm great to see Bill again. I can't wait to learn about Bill. And like, it's like that
is such a, oh my god, dude. That is such a Game of Thrones thing too, especially the books, because they would be like, this character would be like, yes, and be like, just give me back to Theon, or just give me back to John. Like, I just want to read those.
But the unique thing about Lost is that you never got that, like, you kind of like were curious about their island adventure, but the thing with the island adventure, I guess, you know, and that's the best way I could describe it, is that they were always together and usually never really separated that much. So it's like you didn't really have to wonder what was going on with Bill over there. You were more worried about the cliffhanger of his flashback. So like you're just kind of waiting for that next flashback episode. It's like, oh man, like what really happened with him before he got on the plane? Like what's going on there? But
so for things that have already transpired in this world where you pick it up, you're actually made to care for like what, like the past, like you're like learning about like, you know, this person's trials and tribulations before.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I heard it was a lot of flashback,
but that's the thing that they do twist it eventually, and I'm going to spoil you right now if you tell me to stop. But like, what really kind of like hit me in the in the face a little bit, and there's some people that say they don't like the third season. It was like it kind of slowed things down. I can see that a little bit, but like, I still was all in because there's just something about that island and the mystery they were starting to build. Because they do talk about this good and evil themes. There's like some sort of mystical thing that's going on the island. There's a science thing that's going on the island. The idea of the hatch and all that. But you get to like a point where it's like the end of the third season, and you're watching what you think is a flashback, and it's like, but you see like the main character Jack, who is like all of a sudden looks like because he was having a horrible life. Most of them were back home. It's like watching an anime with the horrible backstories. But
terrible life.
But then you're watching Jack, and he's got a beard, and he's just like so distraught, and and whatnot, and all of a sudden, like he is walking, and at the end of that season, that end of that last episode before season 4, you see him walk up to a character from the island.
Really?
Because it that last episode where you think you're just watching a flashback, they instead flipped it to flash forwards.
Oh, and you didn't find out until you see that. And I heard about this. My brother, I'm positive, told me about this because I remember this. It's like you thought it was a flashback.
Yep.
And then at the last minute, you see somebody from the current,
Yep.
the present time.
So then now,
this is a flash forward.
So then that's what they do the whole 4th season, and now the whole thing. Then you have this other kind of hook. You're like, how do they get back? Because they're not back yet. Like, you don't see that happen. And they do a really good job at like kind of adding some science, and then there's some time travel involved, and it's like it goes nuts. I'm telling you, it does go kind of bonkers. But I think that's sort of the charm of the show. It's like you didn't really know what they were going to do with it, and I think they had there was a sense of groundness to it. Like it's like, okay, I see how that works. I see how that makes sense. Yeah, there's that funky science of science fiction shows, but like. It made sense. Like they do such a good job at the actors do a great job at it because you had some really good cast of characters in that show, and you had some really good villains in that show, and there's just I got oddly hooked in that show to the point where I think it just hit me at the right time where I watched like the first 5 seasons 4 times because I would have to re-show people
4 times.
Yeah, because we would do it. It's like because when I started moving in, when I moved out to Rochester, I was so bored at work because we were so slow, and we had access to Netflix. So like we would have like one person come in, we'd watch the show, but like the next person that would work with us, like, well, I didn't see the episode yet, so we'd watch it again, and then they're like, oh, well, I never watched this show, so then we start from the beginning and just watch it all the time, and then like we got to the point we were all caught up, and then we all watched the 6th season together because that hadn't been aired yet, and I'm like, but then like we watching is cool because you could see like the kind of the threads that they were building. It's like you don't even notice it. It's like you might have like been introduced to this character like in season 4, but you see a photo of him in season 3. So it's like they were like kind of mapping these things out like way in advance before they even like had the actor even do a scene. It was just like I don't know. I just something about that show. I mean, I'm not even talking about the science fiction part of it. It's just like I think the characters do it. And you have like what's his name, Pippin. Not Pippin. Who was the other one?
Mary.
He's in that show.
Dominic West?
Yeah, he's in that. Great character, by the way.
Oh, okay. I think I do remember him in that.
Yes, he was a drug addict musician. That's who he played.
Oh.
But then he turns himself around. The island changes him. He becomes a good guy.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad for him. Glad for Mary. I'll give it a try. I will.
It's good stuff.
I'll try.
That's my honorable mention.
I'm very nice, very nice. Well, this one I'm pretty sure you can guess. I've only mentioned them a dozen times so far. It's Firefly.
Okay.
That is it took a lot of soul searching. Is there any other this game that we play? Anyways, Firefly is my choice. It's only 14 episodes in a movie, but it is excellent, and it's more about like what they did right in 14 episodes that you know, what really could have been. Like they really did have an engine that could have been made into a franchise for like 5 seasons easy, with those characters, with that kind of like written humor. I don't know, and then like the way that they kind of portray that humor, because like some of Joss Whedon's humor and some of that writing doesn't really speak well. Like it reads well like on the page, but when people actually say it out loud, you're like, people don't talk like that.
There is sort of like a what's a like maybe a bad reference, but a jazziness to it. It's like it's sort of like it's like to the point where it's like off the rhythm, kind of. You know, it's like the delivery of it's a little weird. Like
Yep.
I don't
It
know.
has its own like kind of cadence, the way people talk, the way they like say their feelings out loud or interject, or if somebody yells at them, they like mutter under their breath. Like I appreciate like the way that they fleshed out characters really quickly, fleshed out like a backstory, and it's like it's kind of like an Old West show, but in like a pioneer days kind of show. But here it is, it's set in the future. It's like many years, like centuries into the future. And I love the way that they get like characters like Jane and Book. Like everyone has their kind of unique archetype and like the way that they act. And even like River and Simon, like River being kind of, she's telepathic and also kind of crazy because they were messing with her head. And
now here's a question I have for you, since I haven't finished the show. I've gotten to the fourth episode, I think. The one I last remember is they went to a dance. That's like the one. I think that's the last one I watched.
Oh, the shindig.
Yeah, and
I love that one. The duel at the end.
Yes, and I obviously watched the movie, and I know the movie is sort of a retelling of Getting River and all that stuff. It's sort of like a weird kind of retelling of the series. Is that where they were going in the end, do you think, with the show? Or is that what they were planning on, or do you think it would have ended differently?
I think the movie was a way to end it in the here and now. Not like here's what would have happened 10 years from now. No, I don't think. I think that there would have been some elements of the movie that would have happened in the end, or in the show as it goes. But it's also a movie. It's a finite amount of time, and it's got a very. It does. You're absolutely right. It does the Evil Dead 2 thing of in the first 5 minutes, we'll tell you what happened in the first movie. Like we'll just explain all the backstory really quickly. But I think they would have had, because there was kind of like the last episode of the only season is very similar to the movie in that they're being hunted by somebody. Because in the movie, right, it's like the operative.
Yeah.
He's like chasing, he's like a black ops kind of dude.
Yep.
I forget that guy's name too. He's a great actor. He was the dude who was in 12 Years a Slave.
Yes. Okay.
That movie that I love that I haven't seen yet, but I have it. I own it. Over there. But he, I feel like that would have been like a major story arc of a season, maybe like being chased by this guy.
Like I've always wondered, because I think that's the thing that kind of like puts I wouldn't say a bad taste in my mouth, but it's like the ending of the movie. I don't think it prevents me from wanting to experience the show. I just think it's just timing and life, and I don't know what it was that really kind of. I never really had that moment to like. It didn't hook me. Those episodes are like they're very self-contained, and maybe that was failing when it was on TV. Who knows?
I think it does feel like a self-contained story, but like as you get into the later episodes, little threads that you thought were tied were like, oh wait, no, that's not fixed. Why would that be fixed? Come back to bite them. Like there is nothing that happens in the first season that you're like, oh, well, that's a plot hole. Like, oh, they never talk about that again. It does come back. So you really need to finish this season. Like it's good television. But it's even better, like world building. Almost every episode makes the world like richer and cooler, and you're like, wow, like I can't imagine where they're going to go with it.
This is the reason I think I haven't finished this show. I'll be honest with you. This is the main reason. No, well, maybe that's it. But no, I have this problem that if Amber has watched something already, I don't want to watch it.
Why, you're just gonna be like, explain it to me. Just tell me what happened.
I don't know. I guess I want the excitement together. I want to share the moment of like newness together. Like it's like a weird thing, and she like makes fun of me all the time. Like she'll like just binge watch animes left and right. And I'm like, hey, this anime just came out. She's like, oh yeah, I've already watched it. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not gonna watch that one now. And I'll just go to the next one.
Really?
I just have this weird thing where I just like I want to either experience. I feel like I have to experience. I don't know what it is. I'm like hoping maybe she'll watch it with me, but then I feel guilty making her watch something she's already watched, even though she says I'll just watch it again with you. Like she's like, I just feel a part of me is like, well, you're not gonna get a full enjoyment of this. Let's watch something different. Like that's just like the way my brain thinks.
I'm gonna give you a piece of advice somebody gave me, and I think you'll appreciate it. Listen to your wife. She said, I will watch it with you. I liked it. She's saying, let's watch it together. So watch it together.
It's all about me, though. It's my problem. I don't know what it is.
Yes, that's you. You're like, wow, she already watched it. Well, she's not going to get as much enjoyment. How do you know how much enjoyment she's going to get? What is it? Oh, I only got 85% enjoyment. Last time I got 95%. Who the fuck cares? She's saying, I'll watch it with you. You know how many times I've rewatched things with Kristen because I just want her to see it? Like, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll watch it. Like, I don't mind, I'll watch it again. She's done that to me. She was like, well, I don't want to watch it if you've already seen it. Like, I don't want to watch it together. I'm like, I don't care. Let's watch it. So from the perspective of the person that says, I don't care, let's watch it again. Watch it again. Just watch it again.
It's very intense when you get close to the camera like that.
I know. Listen, there was an intense zoom where I leaned into the camera.
But I was getting to some point, then we can go to the next one because we're getting really into the Firefly here. So like I wonder though, because like I'm going to spoil Serenity for a second, even though it's been like what 20 years since it's been out.
Jesus. Okay. Well,
like 15 years.
But okay.
Okay. Just rounding up. 2020 felt like a very long 5 years. Okay.
It certainly has felt like a very long year so far, and it's only June.
Do you think they would have handled the death of characters differently if it was an actual end of a show versus the end of a movie?
Oh yeah, I don't think you would have had the same outcome. But
Yeah.
but it was like, here is the nail in the coffin. This isn't coming back. That's what I immediately thought.
Alan Tudyk's death
like
just really.
How you prevent this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt a lot.
It did hurt a lot because of all the people. I would expect Malcolm Reynolds to die before Alan Tudyk. Wash. So if you haven't seen it, yeah, Wash does die at the end of the movie.
If it makes you feel better, we do play a Firefly card game a lot. So I mean, I do play Firefly.
That doesn't make me feel better at all. No, that just makes me feel sad that there's a Firefly card game that you're playing, that you're doing that instead of watching Firefly with your wife.
Well, it's not
play it all the time, huh? Instead of watching Firefly.
It's actually called what's it called? It's not like an actual Firefly card. It's like a themed game, like Munchkin, but it's a different one. And I can't remember the name of it. But like you have to, it's got references from the show in there, obviously. So you got like the dinosaurs and I'll think of the name of the game. But Firefly, huh? I did not think you were gonna go with Firefly.
Yeah, I think I know what you thought I was gonna go with. What'd you think I was gonna go with for my honorable mention? I think you know what my favorite is. What'd you think my honorable mention was gonna be?
Battlestar Galactica.
And I will tell you this, and I admit this now, and it took me a long time to kind of come to this realization.
Okay.
I loved watching Battlestar Galactica when we watched it through. We had all the, we just watched it like every night. Very good at cliffhangers too.
Mm-hmm.
I have not rewatched the series since then.
It's a hard rewatch because you I think you get your fill the first time. I don't think you need and there is that slow period in this show. That's the only fault.
We were talking about that. Kristen and I were talking about that. It was, I think, that's the third season where they're just like on the planet.
Yep.
In this harsh environment.
Yep.
And they're all like living under Cylon rule.
Yeah, like they forgot
good things about it, but it's just weird.
They handled it a very weird way, and I think that was really the downfall. It makes it hard. That's why it's hard to rewatch. Because you'll sit there probably like, well, I'd love to watch the first season again. But then you get to the second season, like I like the second season, but then it like starts to kind of fall off towards the end, and then you're like, you kind of get this sort of sense of excitement about the third season, but it becomes so weird and not what you expect. Like, I mean,
the ending, and like the end of the series was, it wasn't that it was bad, it wasn't that it was great, it was just like, okay, it's over now. Like, this is how they ended it. I guess I didn't feel like any disappointment or anything, because the show did give me a lot. I will say, Battlestar did give me a lot of great moments, great scenes, but yeah, it's not a lot, because it's like a lot of it's like political intrigue, and that only really works once. Before all the cards are laid out on the table.
Well,
like,
that's the thing.
Like piecing together, but like, you know, once you know like what happens, then like kind of the magic of it is gone. So yeah, it's a great show, and if you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. It's an amazing show. And it's one of the best ships. Even their little raptors are awesome little ships. They're little fighters.
So that
I have to relegate it to a shout out. It is just under the honorable mentions.
Well, I'll give it the honorable mention credit for just the point that it took this really old dated show that I really like. You look at the old stuff, I'm like, how do they build this amazing show? And again, that show also was made in that kind of old school way of filming, right? Yep. Like, you know, very self-contained.
Around the same time as Lost.
Yes.
Around the same time.
And right? I think there's something about those shows that it's just so that it makes it hard to rewatch, because I don't think when you're making those types of shows, you're expecting it to be a we watched show. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're gonna sell box sets and stuff.
Just give me the next one.
Yeah, it's like you're not there to like, you're there to get the person to come back. That's it. You know, it's like nowadays I think you want to have a show that's like binge worthy, so people all talk about it all at once. Like that's all you want to build, right?
Or like Game of Thrones at its best when it was, you know, still on the air. It was like these self-contained episodes that were, yeah, they moved the story forward, but they themselves were like movies, you know.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that are just like, that stand out to me as like, you know, a little bit of the context, like it's just an excellent thing to watch. Regardless of like where you are in the story, and like I could go back and like there's like 3 or 4 episodes I can think of that I could go back and watch anytime, because I'm like, that's a good episode. Like I remember that being. Yeah. So like Battlestar Galactica, it's more like characters. Like I remember liking this character. I remember liking this arc for a little while. But those are buried because there's so many characters and there's so many arcs going on at once. You're kind of like following all these threads.
It's like you almost forget you almost forget the first season, because by the time you get to the 5th season, it's like, okay, so much has changed. You have so many Cylons. It's like, and you have characters that are multiple people. So you have like 2 versions of like Boomer. You know, it's like which one are we talking about when we talk about Boomer, right? Cylon Boomer or regular Boomer? Because they're both in itself their own kind of character, which is the magic of that show. But it makes it sort of hard, because when you go back, it's like
you know who the Cylons are.
That's the thing. The beauty of the show is like is learning the mystery and what happened. The only thing that I think that's like no mystery behind it at all, and it's sort of like makes it sort of is watching what's his name, the doctor.
Gaius Baltar.
Yeah, like he's like the only one that's like you kind of know from the start. Like he has a kind of a change in arc later on, but like he like you know his secret from the beginning. There was something interesting about that, you know.
Yeah, the whole time you're just waiting for people to find out that he's the reason why humanity has been destroyed.
Like, the only thing is like you're
narrow down to one dude.
And that's the one. I think one thing that's the one thread to the whole entire show is just like you're like, man, I'm in on a secret. No one knows, but then you don't know all these other ones, and it's like there's something weird about and interesting about that.
It is good. It is. I haven't really like thought about it like that. It's been a while since I thought about like the time where you didn't know who the Cylons were and like how each piece gets revealed, and you're like, oh, like Boomer is a Cylon, and when she and I'm sorry, spoilers, but when she shoots Adama, she's like getting her commendation, and you're like, whoa, like what the fuck?
Yeah,
like that kind of moment, you can't have that again. You can't have that WTF moment again.
Yep.
No, I mean, like, for someone who's never seen it, it's absolutely, like, I highly, highly recommend it. Like, it's great, and the visual effects are pretty great. I think it holds up because it is about characters. It's about people and politics, and, like, how does the human race survive when it's down to, like, 25 ships, basically, and one military vessel.
Yeah.
What happens when they find another military vessel? The Pegasus, huh?
Yeah,
Someone's gonna get fat.
And then we've talked about this before. What happens when it like jump skips and somebody gains a lot of weight? You'll learn about that too.
I love how they just had him snacking all the time. Like, yeah, things have cooled down here. I'm like, this guy would never get fat. Like, he looks ridiculous fat. Like, they couldn't even put a fat suit on him and make him look like a fat guy.
But no, I think it's just a really good sci-fi show. I think it has, like you said, it has like characters. There's some really good themes in it. I agree that like the ending isn't like, I don't hate the ending. I actually, almost like when you're watching it, you kind of just like nod your head like, yep, I get it. Yep, that's it. That makes sense. I'm all with you. I'm like, okay, but it's like there isn't this sort of sense of like we won or like that's the end. It's like, nope, like we're just gonna, that's what happened. It's like we're here now. Like it was like this sort of like climatic, like it was an anticlimactic end, but yet, I mean, there was a really cool battle that happens right before the end, but it's like when you finally get to the end of the journey, it's just like, I wish the journey kept, like, you kind of wish the journey was going on just a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's like from the beginning of the show to the end, just to see like what they did to people was so crazy. You know, like from the first season, like the chief especially.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of that show, he's just like, I'm gonna go wander out into the wilderness and not be around people anymore.
Yeah,
I don't think I like people anymore. And it's like, you know what, dude? After what you've been through, I understand. You just go be a hermit. Like, that's how hermits are made. Like, you live the life of the chief.
Yeah,
but no, it's a good show.
Yeah, very good show. And what's her name? Starbuck was a great. Yeah, she was a amazing pick to play a male role. Technically.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The original Starbuck was
from the old show. Was a dude.
Yeah.
No, she's great.
She's great. I don't think they handled her end that best though. I think it was just sort of too.
Yeah.
Whether it be too on the nose or like too like, I don't know, symbolic or something, like you're an angel or something like that.
Yeah, and then she just disappears.
Yeah. I don't like that part.
It was weird. But I will say one thing I really liked about it. Like humans have like either like no faith or like polytheistic faiths, like almost like Roman gods, or like Greek and Roman gods, because they mention like Athena and like other names like that. But they're all like kind of different, like Caprica, and I think they're like more like constellation. Anyway,
yeah, they did.
They're polytheistic, but the Cylons are like, there is the one true God.
Yeah.
Like, won't you listen to God's message? And they're like, basically, like, trying to convert Gaius Baltar in the beginning. He's like, God has a plan for us, Gaius.
Yeah, I love how he goes to he becomes the prophet at the end.
Weird, like for the robots to have this kind of like belief system.
But it makes sense. They only had one maker, I guess. Like one, like thank the maker.
I guess. Thank them, the maker.
I do have one shout out because I know we need to get to a break here. I do want to shout this out.
Yep.
I want to shout out X-Files.
Yeah, I was going to say something about them too.
It's a very good show. We don't have time to spend on that show, but like, again,
Twilight Zone.
That was a good one too. Like the original ones.
Did you ever watch The Outer Limits?
No, I never watched that.
I haven't seen the new ones though. I haven't seen the new Twilight Zone ones. I don't know if they're good or not.
Yeah, the original Twilight Zone, the one episode that always sticks to my mind, it was the one where, oh jeez, it's like they move into a neighborhood, and like all of a sudden, like the neighborhood people are all crazy, and they just start like fighting each other. It was like really weird. I can't remember it. Like,
is it the bunker?
Is that the bunker?
Is it the one where they like? I showed that one in class. I showed that for my first year English students. Is the
okay? I don't
the bunker. Where they're like, this guy is building like a bomb shelter in his basement, and then like they're having like a birthday party or something, and then like they hear the sirens, and like oh no, like there's unidentified, missiles heading this way.
Oh yeah.
Take you to a bunker if you can, and then the neighbors like break into the bunker because he won't let them in. And at the end, they realize they just found out it was weather balloons.
Oh,
and then
no, I think it was yeah. There's so many good ones, but there's so many. There's so many good ones for that show. I used to watch all the time as a kid. It's been forever since I watched it, but
me too. You would like The Outer Limits.
Okay,
it's like The Twilight Zone, but it's more sci-fi, I think, than.
Well, is it like Black Mirror kind of then? Because Black Mirror's kind of like that a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think you could find some similarities, but Outer Limits, because I think it was the '90s, mid '90s when it was running. Some really crazy things, like really like images that are like burned into my brain. So you should check it out.
Sure, I'll add it to my list that you're giving me today. Jesus,
I'm sure Amber's watched it, so no worries.
All right, well, let's take a break here because we probably could talk more and more and more about TV shows, but we have to get to our favorites.
Yes, we do. Excuse us.
And we're back to finish the episode of Favorite Sci-Fi Show. In case you didn't know what episode we were doing, I don't know why I say it like that.
If you came to listen only to the last part of this, I'll just tell you what we were listening to.
So, Paul, you're going to go first with our favorites. So really just kind of like bring your shirt up a little bit and tell me your answer.
So if people can't really see this is the space station, Deep Space Nine, from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This is a baseball because this is the logo of the baseball team that that Commander or Captain Sisko arranged to play in the Holosuite, called the Deep Space Niners. And you're a Niners fan. I thought you'd always appreciate
I didn't realize that I appreciate that a lot, actually.
It's really funny. It's one of my favorite episodes. It's called "Take Me Out to the Holosuite." And
sounds good.
Deep Space Nine is my favorite science fiction show. I know Next Generation is great. I love the original series too. Deep Space Nine is just like an amazing series, tackling issues way ahead of its time, and like talking about things in such a like open way. Like there's no black and white, good or evil in this show. It's all shades of gray, and that's kind of how real life is. I feel it's the most grounded and down to earth Star Trek show that's ever been made, and I don't think you'll ever find better writers, better actors on a Star Trek series. I mean, come on. In the baseball one, you have Worf. They're all like getting ready, and Sisko is saying like, "All right, Niners, let's hear some chatter." And they're like, "Hey, batter, 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 swing, batter, batter." And Worf is in the outfield, and he just goes, "Death to the opposition." Like, you can't get better writing than that.
Now, I will go on record here and say that Deep Space Nine is my favorite Star Trek show. I just don't know it as well as you do. I didn't watch it though. I think you've seen every episode, right? I'm pretty sure you have.
We've seen every episode probably a few times. The first time I watched though, and my wife got me into it. Like Kristen, like really pushed me. She was like, "You never watched any Star Trek? Like you should watch this. You'd probably like it." And we were watching it on her disc. She had all of the like seasons on disc, like on a DVD player in our bedroom. Every night we watched one Sisko, as I call it. We're like, "We're gonna watch Sisko tonight." Can we watch two?
Is that like is that like a parsec? Like 12 parsecs to one parsec?
Yes. She could only handle one Sisko, but I was watching two Siskos a night. And so I would just like recap for her sometimes what happened in an episode, or I'd have to watch it again, which was fine with me. I love that show, man.
It's a
like
good show.
Comfort food.
It's a good show. No, I've always appreciated Deep Space Nine. Now, see, me, I watched it on like the random TV show, not USA, because I know it's our favorite television station. I can't remember. It was like what the CW used to be. Like I remember, like it used to be
Channel 11.
Yeah,
the
WB or something, or like.
Yes,
like,
it used to be the WB before the CW. Yep, was the WB.
But like they used to do like reruns of Deep Space Nine, so I was like, remember I was like gonna watch something else on that station or something like that. So like Deep Space Nine was like on before it. So I got used to watching Deep Space Nine to watch whatever I was going to watch, but then eventually turned into be like wanting to watch Deep Space Nine. I don't remember episodes like you do. I mean, granted, I watched it on television, so you had commercials, and I might have missed things because I had to go walk away and do something or be yelled at. Who knows?
You came back after you came back to the TV after it came back from the commercial. You're like, what the hell happened with that?
Like, because I mean, I think I was watching it in high school, middle school, but like there were so many good episodes. I love the whole, because my memory of that show, just to add my own 2 cents on it, was that kind of like weird tension between the well, I said this for Cardassians, not. Did I say it right? Cardassians. Cardassians. Right?
Yes. Correct. There's no sh sound in it. It's just Cardassians.
Kardashians, right?
Yeah. Think of the word card and the word ass. Cardassians.
That does not help. That does not help.
Oh, true. Poor choice of words on my part.
Anyways,
so between the Cardassians and the Bajorans, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and then Deep Space Nine kind of in the mix there too, right? Kind of to help facilitate that. And I always thought that was like such an interesting way to do a story because, like, I've watched the Next Generation a little bit. I've seen some of the Star Trek originals. Like this is like way before I went my little binge of it. But like I'd like kind of dabbled in those a little bit, so I knew what Star Trek was more so than movies. So like seeing it kind of self-contained to a ship. Into like a station, like a station, not ship, and then being in like an actual like kind of planet versus like kind of changing the alien race all the time. I really appreciated that because you had like consistency across it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of got disconnected a little bit with the other ones because like your only consistency were the crew, not the environment, except for the Enterprise itself.
So you get all sorts of new problems to face when you're stuck in one spot, And I mean, like, it's the first one that was set on a space station, not on a traveling spaceship, and you have, and they're there really for like not a border dispute more, but like Cardassians had basically colonized Bajor, and they were like overseeing the withdrawal of Cardassians, and so like Bajor was like its own planet for the first time in many years. So it was like they were trying to guide them, like the Federation is trying to guide them, but they're not a part of the Federation at the same time. And like at the last minute when they were about to be, they like chose not to. Like they were like, we're gonna be like Bajor for Bajorans, it's like whatever. Like they were like, we don't want to be part of anything just yet. I don't know, like it handles a lot of like contemporary politics in a way that like shows you that like some parts of human nature will never change, like people competing with others, or the pursuit of wealth. That's the whole Ferengi thing. So like all those, like from Next Generation, Cardassians were on there, Ferengi were on there, and even Klingons were a major part of it. But in Deep Space Nine, I felt you really fleshed out those races and those people and their cultures. And like so much so that in Deep Space Nine, you go to Ferenginar, like the Ferengi home planet, where it rains all the time. All the time. Mm-hmm. It's always raining on Ferenginar. And women are not allowed to be clothed. And like it's only men can do business.
I like how you have to throw that in there, though. It's like it always rains, and then women can't be clothed. It's like an extra fact.
Yeah, I mean these are 9 facts. Yes, 9 facts.
9 facts.
I love the idea of like the Federation is not this perfect thing. That there's a lot of like cracks in the armor here, where like. They have 31, their whole like black ops kind of personnel, like people that do missions behind the scenes, like their whole clandestine like they're CIA basically, or their whole like secret affairs. And then I don't know, I loved it because it took a lot of classic Star Trek things and challenged them, and it was like, you think this is how it is, you think this is how the Federation acts and how the Federation is perceived. But actually, people think of it as like this insidious force that's just trying to like expand and make everybody like them. So, I don't know. there's a lot of good things. It was the first one to be on a space station, first show without Gene Roddenberry actually having a hand in it, first one to have a person of color of any, a non-white person as its captain, as its lead, as its central character. I mean, it is a landmark show, and I think it deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame of television.
Is there a Hall of Fame?
Wherever that is. If it's in Cooperstown, belongs there. It belongs in TV.
They do have Baseball Hall of Fame there, so I guess it would fit. You could put the Deep Space Niners in there.
Wherever they should be, right? At least a jersey. You've heard me rant about Deep Space Nine plenty of times, and I'm sure our listeners have, but at this point. Mm-hmm. But I love that show, man. If you haven't seen it, pick a starting place, start in the first season, and just dive in. Get to know those characters. It will not be a waste of time, I guarantee you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good stuff. And the thing I will add to that too, the one thing I like about it too, is that you see, I feel like you see more civilian life in that show, because like a lot of the other ones are very military, very, like you're always like doing some sort of mission, right? Like here, it's like it's a little different. It's like they're living. Yeah, they have. Yeah. They're just there in the ship living, and they just deal with problems. It's not like they're going out to explore the final frontier. It's just like, nope, we have to deal with life. So like, I think there's a difference there. So I like that. So I am going to give you my favorite now, and you supposedly think you know what it is.
I thought I did. Now I'm not so sure.
I don't think you do. Okay. I thought about this a little hard because obviously there are Star Wars shows, and I tend to bring those in, but I'm not doing a Star Wars show today. Though I love The Mandalorian, I'll give that a shout out. I guess it's is that
really sci-fi?
I know, that's the thing. You look at like Clone Wars and Rebels and all those shows that have been Star Wars. I don't consider Star Wars sci-fi.
It's space opera.
Yeah, I mean, it's science fiction. Sure, it has spaceships, pew pew, but it's hard for me to like lump it into like that genre of science fiction. So like I use that as a good way to not bring up Star Wars. So my pick, which this is actually very surprising, the more I looked it over, thought about it, like I thought maybe Battlestar Galactica would be it, but I am going to pick, which oddly enough is about a crew stuck on a station, and then a Stargate Atlantis.
Oh. Atlantis. Welcome.
What did you think it was?
I honestly thought you were going to say Star Trek: The Original Series.
No,
because of your binge watch and your
no. I didn't finish Star Trek: The Original either, so I can't. I mean, but yeah, no, I can't say the original. I can't. Like I love that. I loved my enjoyment of that. The only reason I was binging, though, by the way, was because I was trying to binge all of them, and I never finished that journey. I was gonna do Next Generation next, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get through it. But no, like the more I thought about it, like now you said like you didn't get introduced to Deep Space Nine until Kristen introduced you, and you had to watch a lot of discs. Well, yes. Amber has 15 seasons of Stargate on disc.
Wow. 15 seasons?
Well, there was 12 for SG-1.
Oh, okay. And then Atlantis is a sequel?
5. Yes, that's 5 seasons.
Okay.
So 13, I guess, and then 2 for a universe. there's a third spin-off as well.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a third spin-off.
That has yeah. But SG-1 though, not SG-1, Atlantis. I love SG-1. SG-1 just kind of took a little bit to kind of get its footing. I feel like though I loved O'Neill, I think he's a great character. They had to build that relationship. They had to build the formula, even though they were kind of copying Star Trek the formula a little bit more. Like that's maybe why I like it, because it was kind of a very Star Trek-y show.
Okay. Where
they were going from planet to planet, exploring. They're explorers. That's all. That's all SG-1 was. They would just go on the Stargate and check different coordinates and just say, well, let's go check out that planet. Let's go check out that planet. So you have that kind of rhythm of just like exploration. But by the time you hit to Atlantis, SG-1 was already in its 8th season, and it was happening simultaneously to SG-1. So you had it overlapping. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, and like you had this like kind of like almost MCU type of connection, because like things that would happen in SG-1 would help the Atlantis team, because like I say SG-1 found this cool little alien tech. They're like, hey, here Atlantis, this is gonna help power your ship. Like they would like actually have like that kind of crossover across the two seasons.
Okay, I can appreciate that.
But the original storyline of Atlantis is they pretty much they do some testing or something. I can't remember how it starts off, but they found a coordinate to this ship that was made by the Ancients. Now, the Ancients is something that was described in the original SG-1 are the creators of the Stargate. They're like a very ancient race.
They're like the Proteans from Mass Effect.
Sure. Like the Ancients, though, they got to the point where they got so technologically advanced they ascend. So they almost come beyond living. They're like kind of like almost like angels, I guess. They don't say that, but like they even kind of went past like living mass and they're just ascended. But like so they have this like artifacts that are kind of crossed the universe in a sense. Atlantis is one of those artifacts. Atlantis is a space station that was in a sense put underwater because it follows that's sort of the story, because they were in a battle with this alien race called the Wraith. The Wraith are an awesome alien race that are kind of like vampires because they feed on the human race. So like it seems very simple, but it's so hard you gotta kind of see it. So when they do the exploration to go see Atlantis to kind of learn about it, it's sort of like because they're all these missions are all exploration to learn about the alien tech. The government's into it because that's just always been the thing, so they can learn more military things, right? And then they always have scientists who are like, let's learn all the nerdy stuff. So, but the thing that's about Atlantis that I love is it took the formula of SG-1 with O'Neill and Teal'c and Samantha Carter and Dr. Janet Jackson, because you had this good like kind of crew and like camaraderie and like kind of like almost like a friendly like a buddy kind of team. And they kind of like, you get that team really quick in Atlantis. And then you got 5 great seasons because that formula was already kind of developed a little bit and how to make that team happen. And like you're kind of giving an initial like sort of bad guy right from the get-go, where you always had the Gual Old on SG-1, but then you're kind of going to this planet fighting this bad guy and this bad guy and this bad guy. You always had to like, it jumped around.
Yeah, it's not the same ones each time.
Where in Atlantis, you're always kind of like, it's like almost like the Cardassians, I guess, in Deep Space Nine. Like they're always kind of there, they're always kind of lingering. You always have to be worried about them, and that's the Wraith. Like the Wraith were really interesting because they almost were like a mutated like kind of. They looked like Klingons, but they're more pale, I guess.
Okay.
And they would just and then they like had like white, really gringly hair. And that was why the ancients sort of put the city underwater, because they lost the war. So when they get to the ship, when they find Atlantis, the whole first season is them stuck, because when they get there, they lose power, so they can't get back. So they can't turn the Stargate back on. They're actually stuck on Atlantis. And that's the whole first season, is them trying to figure out a way to get back.
Now, I will say this is the only Stargate show that I watched the first episode, like when it premiered.
Okay.
Like I was actually kind of like, I could maybe get into this. Like, I don't know why it was. I loved Atlantis. I love Atlantic.
Obviously.
At that time period too. So I was like, cool. Like they're doing something with Atlantis. All right, maybe I'll give it a shot. I do remember watching that first episode. Didn't commit, but I watched it when it came out. I thought it was pretty decent. I thought it was like,
I mean, you had a really good group of people in that show. So like you had Dr. Weir, who was like the main leader of that, and then you had Dr. McKay, who was a very like, he was actually like a lot of these characters were always side characters in SG-1. So like there was sort of that excitement of like, oh, they're going to be like main characters on the show now. That's kind of cool.
Spotlight, yeah.
Yeah, like so, and then there were new ones too. And this is obviously the first time you ever get to see Jason Momoa, because he is a main character on this show. He plays Ronan.
Okay.
He comes in like the second or third season. There's only 5 seasons, but he comes later on. So he's like the alien brute force. He's like the Worf, or the you know, like that kind of stereotype. But like he had his own like kind of like sort of like charisma to him in itself. But it's harder for me to like kind of really kind of emphasize what makes that show work. I just think each season kind of upped the ante a little bit, and they even kind of do a bunch of twists and turns. And granted, it was coming out this time where TV shows were kind of losing views because of streaming too. Like that's why Universe was barely even around, because it only lasts 2 seasons. But like they were trying to shake things up a little bit. There was something about the camaraderie. They even bring what's her name from Firefly in the last couple seasons, Kylie. Was that the redhead? She's the stuff in the back. She does the engineer.
Oh yeah, she's the mechanic basically.
Yeah, she comes on the show the last 2 seasons. She's on that show, that actress.
Okay.
So I mean, it's like there was just some sort of, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it, learning about the race, because they have that kind of like weird, sort of like living thing kind of ships too. Like that was kind of cool. It was like I wouldn't say they were living, but they kind of felt like inside they were very different looking. I don't know. So it's just a lot of cool. There was one episode I feel like it was really funny, and I think it was like more of a standoffy episode. So they do some exploration in the universe, because they go to a different galaxy. So Atlantis, that's what was unique about it, because they were always like exploring different galaxies, but this one was I think they went to the Pegasus galaxy. I think that's what it was. But when they get there, they're trying to explore the planets of that one. So like, you got to think of it kind of like the Mass Effect arrays. So it's like once you hit one Mass Effect, you can go to different ones. Yeah, here, it's like they found one Stargate that was separate from the other network of Stargates. So once they hit that one, they could go to others.
There's networks. A different network they can tune into.
Yeah. So so they start exploring other planets. One of the planets they go to was such a funny episode, because they get there and because McKay is like that nerdy, but he's like almost the extreme version of Dr. Daniel Jackson. So like almost like uppity and like very like almost to the point where he's pompous, but you kind of love him at the same time, even though he's annoying. It's like I know better than everyone else kind of guy. But you just
sure.
There you go. Who knows? Maybe they copied Deep Space Nine. I don't know. But like then you have like obviously the commander. I think his name is actually Shepard, which is really funny.
I was like, are you saying Commander Shepard?
Yeah, I think his name is Shepard, which is really funny.
I approve of this story.
Hold on one second, I gotta fix our video here. But yeah, they find a planet and they go. They're exploring things, and they find a video game, and they start playing a video game. It's like a real-time strategy video game, kind of like Civilization, and they've been like they're obsessed with it, and they're playing around. And you find out the video game is affecting these 2 actual civilizations that are real people. And, like, they think that the people that are giving the commands are their god. So, like... so, it's just, like, things like that happen that were just, like, it works so well for that show. I don't know what it was. I think they just, like... I guess they just stopped taking it so seriously, but yet there was a serious tone at the same time. I don't know how to describe it, but... They
didn't shy away from playing around with things, but they still maintained the kind of like the flow of the show.
Yeah, because like I think like what happened with SG-1, it got kind of weird, and with like I mentioned the Ancients ascending and stuff like that, and then obviously O'Neill, he left the show because Richard D. Danielson just got old. And they kind of brought in a new leader, so there was this kind of like shift the last 3 seasons. It wasn't bad by any means, but I kind of liked the new crew from Atlantis more. But yeah.
Okay. So. All right. So you like them better. Does Amber agree with your choice, or is she a SG-1 person?
She understands my choice. Let's put it that way.
She doesn't agree.
I don't know what she agrees. I don't know. I think she likes All Stargate. So. But she knew that I liked that one more.
You know what else she likes? Firefly. And that's a show I think you should watch. I think you'd like it.
She likes Stargate more, though.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, you've already watched Stargate. You haven't finished Firefly. You could do that. All right, I'm going to stop guilting you. No, good choice, though. All right, I like this. This has been a little bit of an interesting mix-up of choices for our honorable favorites. I think we surprised each other a little bit here.
And I wasn't surprised by
your
your favorites was definitely wasn't a surprise. I guess you not picking Battlestar was a surprise, but
yes. I seriously, I mean, like that show is great, but Westworld I think is, ooh, that first season of Westworld is so good, dude. Like I don't know, it might even be better than say like 50% of Battlestar.
but
Like
you
it's
haven't
really,
finished.
really
You haven't
good.
finished Westworld. You don't know yet.
That's true, but they can't take away the first season unless they said like it's a dream or
I don't know.
something.
The first season of Battlestar was really good too.
Yes, it was. Well, Justin, why don't you tell them what are we doing next week on the podcast?
We are going to be doing a return of the sequels.
The sequel Strikes Back.
Actually, we did our favorite sequels last season, but this time we're going to do sequels the video game version.
We focused on movies, last year, and now we're gonna give video games their turn and talk about our favorite sequels. Yeah, this will be good.
Because sequels are always better than the first one, right? Isn't that usually?
Always.
It's like the reverse from movies. Like movies usually you're like but usually when the sequel comes, it's like for video games, it's like it's gonna be better. Usually.
Yeah, there's like a general idea like it's gonna be better. They learned their lesson from the first one. They're gonna make it better. Not with movies.
Except for Assassin's Creed 3. We'll just be blatantly say that right now.
Woof. Woof. What a bad game.
It's
funny. I mean, like, the game is full of good things, but they all suck. When you put them together, they all sucked. Well, all right, Justin. This has been fun. I'm looking forward to hearing what kind of video games we'll talk about. Like, I wonder, will you stick in the 8-bit era, or will you stay in more modern?
I don't know. Maybe a little both. Who knows? We'll see. We'll have to see.
Maybe we can play some 8-bit games against each other online here.
You've been playing an 8-bit again right now.
Oh my God, Celeste is great. So based on Justin's talk about this was for favorite video games of the past decade, right?
Yep.
Part 2 or part 1?
Part 2, because that was late in the past. Yeah.
And I finally got a Nintendo Switch, so I've been playing nothing but that game, and it is great. I love it. Platforming.
Hopefully, they make a sequel before next week.
Hey, then we'll be talking about that for our favorite sequel to the video game sequel episode.
Okay.
All right.
On that note,
playing favorites.
Okay. I'm Justin.
I'm Paul. Let's do it again next week.